Welcome, everyone. It is Friday, and we're in the Nutmeg Tavern, so we are live in the Nutmeg Tavern. I'm your host, Jonathan Townsend, or John Townsend. Behind the scenes, we're missing our standard person behind the bar. Ryan is off again. He's touring again. Where is he at? Is he in Toledo?
You know what? I should know this, but I don't.
I think he's headed to Toledo. I think is it?
That sounds right.
Detroit.
Yeah. Oh, Detroit. Detroit. That's right.
Yep.
It's that way. So anyway, Ryan is out. So we've got our backup bartender. We haven't named him yet. If you've got an idea for the name of our backup bartender, chat. Give it to us in the chat. Behind the console is Aaron, and he's double duty today. He is on the console. He's in the chat, and he
probably
is
gonna do questions.
And he's questions too. No. And sitting back there also is Brandon. He's monitoring chat for us. So there you go.
The backup bartender is horrifying. Yeah, every time I walk in here, it freaks me out. It looks like a corpse.
So the drink today, because the bartender is out, last week during the 900,000 celebration, I was drinking Madeira wine. And this is another very similar, related wine. I'm drinking port wine today because, of course, I don't have anybody to mix me any cool drinks. So, but I really enjoy port, so I'll be enjoying a nice inexpensive port wine. News. Wow. Let me tell you, Brandon and I have been working this week on the canoe, canoe number 3, dugout canoe number 3, not canoe number 3. So dugout canoe number 3, the one made from the massive cottonwood tree that you see in the dugout canoe video that we cut it down and then we couldn't do it, right? That tree was not wasted. We didn't waste anything in that. Everybody was worried, oh, you're just going to leave that in the woods to rot, blah, blah, blah. Let me tell you, there's probably 2-man weeks to get that tree out of the woods, but I got it out of the woods, and we've turned both sections of that tree. It was long enough in that main trunk to make 2 canoes out of, and the second canoe is very nearly done. It needs some treatment of the bottom and the inside, but other than that, it's ready to test it out into the water. Just an amazing canoe to work on, and Brandon did almost all the work because my elbows haven't recovered from the first dugout canoe. So, but that'll be really cool. So we'll have 3 dugout canoes to work with in our canoe trip that we had planned. And then we put it off, and now we put it off again. Not a lot off, but so we've moved one big project. We've moved another giant project ahead in the schedule. It's crazy.
Basically,
I don't know.
With the canoe one, we don't want to die of heat exhaustion.
Yeah, mosquitoes, heat exhaustion, whatnot. So.
Yeah, so we're going to do more of a fall trip.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Yeah. It'll be a lot of fun. Also worked on the German kitchen on the outside of it. You only ever see the inside of the German kitchen, and there's a good reason for that, because the outside looks horrifying. It's like a 25-year-old building that's never had anything done to it, and we did something to it, even today. So it's going to look a lot better. I don't know if you're ever going to see the outside of it, but at least when I see it, it's going to look a lot better. That's a good thing.
I don't know if anyone saw in the barley water video, we did the taste test in the other side of the building,
right?
Which is it's kind of like what would you say, like a study?
Standard sitting room.
Yeah, sitting room, and we want to start using that more for taste tests and conversation pieces.
Yeah, we've used that for an interview or two, and I've been working on that side of the building for forever. It did have a giant piles of junk in it and everything, and all of that's been cleared out, and it's amazing. Amazing things are happening.
Also, yeah, everyone, we can formally introduce Brandon. Everybody in the chat say hey.
Yeah.
He was in the Bark Canoe videos, but he's an official employee now, doing the handiwork.
Yeah, and no, I won't say anything. I will say, welcome back, Aaron. He was missing for the big celebration episode. He was on vacation. He wanted to not.
I was celebrating.
Yeah, he was celebrating, just not with us. So, So
I had my own Nutmeg Tavern at home.
And I missed a special thanks on that. I was thanking several different people, and Michael Dragoo is one of those people I should have mentioned during the thanks section. Michael's been in a bunch of our videos, and we always enjoy when Michael's in, as a guest cook. And so thank you, Michael Dragoo. I don't know if he's there in the live chat, but anyway. How about a question for us, Aaron?
Yeah,
what do you think?
To say, throw some questions up. I haven't had a lot right now, but
I've got. If we don't
I have one, but
you've got one.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, we are running down an extra person, so bear with Aaron as he's doing 2 jobs at once. This is going to be a little more laid back than a typical one because we don't have the super full crew here. But I did have a question that I wanted to read out to you, and I'll have you play that clip a little bit later. So
okay.
Here's the question. This is from Alexander, and I think it was a question that showed up on a particular video. And he says, "Hi, Mr. Townsend. I'm not sure if you read these, but maybe I'll get lucky. I just found your channel and have taken to it. My girlfriend thinks it's great too. We had a question though. She asked me specifically if you dress the part just for videos or if you work in this field day to day in life. So do you wear plenty clothes all the time?" And then he goes on to have, do you work as a reenactor of sorts, or maybe tours or schools? Because I see that you have a property that is expressly dedicated to the 18th century. I don't know if that is just how you live or are super dedicated or what. Crazy, I think is the word he's missing there. Really love what you do. Keep up. Blah, blah, blah. So there's the question. So we tried to answer this question many years ago. I don't know how many years ago, 6, 7 years ago, probably 8 years ago. We made a video that kind of answered this question. Go ahead and play it, Aaron. Are we out? They say, "John, do you dress like this all the time?" Okay, good. People ask me, they say, "John, do you dress like this all the time?" Okay, good. Have you placed an order with us before? Yeah. What's your zip code? Is it low level? The second bus is full of holes. There it is. There was our answer 7 or 8 years ago. Okay, it was a joke video. That's what we did at the time. So the answer is no, I don't wear 18th century clothes 24/7. Here's the challenge, though. If you guys get us to 1 million subscribers...
You're going to bribe them?
I will wear 18th century clothes 24/7 for an entire month. There you go. There you go. That's the challenge for you guys out there. You guys can make this happen. That's what we'll do. especially if you remind me, because I won't remember this when it happens. Although we're already at 9:05, aren't we?
Yeah, I don't know why you're doing this. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's gonna happen anyway. But anyway, no, I don't wear these things 24/7. I wear. Don't tell anybody. I'm wearing blue jeans right now. But anyway. I ruined it. I know I ruined it. I shouldn't have said anything. Last week, I wasn't wearing blue jeans. No, so what do we do? Why do I dress up funny? Why do we do what we do? Really good question. And especially people new to the channel, new to what we do. The main thing, the thing that has supported the channel for 9 years before we got to this year, the channel has been a baby byproduct, or I don't know what you would call it, of our mail order business. So we sell 18th and 19th century reproductions to historic sites and living history reenactors and theater and television occasionally. We sell all the things that you would need to cook period meals and to go camping, and all the clothing and, you know, all those sort of little pocket accessories that you'd need to live daily life if you lived in 1775. And that has been a family business for 40 years, 45, forever. Seems like forever, right? Grew up in the business, but we started the YouTube channel about 10 years ago. So because that's what we do, and that's, you know, reenactors, when they're doing that thing, they're dressed up. That's what I do when I'm on the channel. I'm dressed up like somebody would be in that time period, not just for looks, but also it gives you the feeling like you're in the 18th century. So that's part of, when you're reenacting, it isn't just acting like a play. And even if you ask actors, they take on some of that persona, some of that part. And clothing helps them do that. Their environment helps them do that. What they're saying and how they're saying it helps them do that. And as reenactors, wearing that clothing helps you feel like you're in that time period. And so that's one of the reasons why we do that. And the channel is really, you know, based around that. So do I wear these clothes all the time? No, I live a modern life. I have to run a business, and I have to learn about computers and running cameras and all kinds of stuff. So it would be kind of funny, you know, you're studying on a computer and you're all dressed up. I don't know. I would do it. But anyway, I think that answers most of that question. And it is an interesting and fun question. And most people that tune into the channel, they have no idea what it is that we do and why we do it. Why is that guy dressed up funny and he's cooking things? They don't have any idea.
Yeah, I feel like every time one of our videos goes into trending or something, it's like, okay, now we got to do the who we are speech.
What is
like
this?
Right after that one, when new subscribers come in.
Exactly. So it is a really good question, even though a lot of people, you know, might think, well, it's a silly question. Why do you ask that? New people are coming into the channel every day, every second, every hour, and they want to know what is going on here. So that's kind of what's going on. How about a question, Aaron?
Yeah, hold on. I'm grabbing one right now.
Okay.
I'm trying to throw them into like a notepad. Okay. How did they brush their teeth, and did they use a type of toothpaste? So brushing teeth.
Yeah, you know, you don't hear too much about them talking about toothbrushes, and I wish I had one of the ones here. Of course, it's like that all the time. If I had the question 5 minutes ahead of time, I could probably go rustle around in all the junk weirdness downstairs. We used to sell toothbrushes, although we couldn't call them toothbrushes. They were just brushes, because toothbrushes, they're regulated. You know, if you're going to import a toothbrush, it has to meet certain standards. Well, an 18th century toothbrush actually looks quite like a modern day toothbrush, but has a bone handle, boar bristles, and you see those. They're very, very common in the 19th century, but they certainly show up in the 18th century, just not as much. They really weren't too concerned about toothbrushes. What you'll see before you'll see a toothbrush is a tongue scraper, or an ear spoon. They have, you would have gentlemen's toiletry kits that would have all these little tools for, I'm going to take care of my nails or whatnot. You generally don't see toothbrushes in there, but you will see ear spoons. So there you go.
All right. This one is,
he's working hard.
Were horses expensive back then? They had to be important for transportation and farming. How did they use their horses for food as well?
I have never seen any reference other than sort of jokingly, like you might do today, at least in the English and North American context. I have not seen any references to eating horses to any great extent. They might, do that in the far frontier situations or in great desperation, but I haven't seen that as a typical meat source. So I don't think they're eating horses. And I wish I had some good, reference that I could give you on the cost of a horse versus something else. In that last video we did with Mike Miller, and I asked him the question about, how much does a gun cost? And, he, like anybody that's having to deal with the cost of things, is very, very difficult to do because their monetary system is so different than what ours is today. It's bogglingly different. Even though we got there in sort of little shifts through time, it is just so apples to oranges. It's not even funny. So it's very difficult for us to understand the worth of something unless we sort of equate it to something else. Generally, how long would a standard working man have to work to purchase this item? Unfortunately, off the top of my head, I don't have any horse prices in my head. I haven't read about any of those recently, so I cannot tell you about the cost of a horse. I would imagine it would be fairly expensive, and to say, it might be a month's wages, but that's a super guess there. And obviously, there's a great range of, like there might be today. I can buy $1,000 car or I can buy $100,000 car, right? So probably the same thing's going on with horses.
Here's one. Sorry, I'm having to.
He's not used to this, so.
Well, putting them in a notepad is helpful, but trying to have a window with the software, the chat, the stream, and then the notepad.
Yeah.
Okay. How did the colonists get their black powder during the War of Independence? Did they steal it for the British or make it by themselves?
Yeah, both and they were also getting arms from other places. So there was certainly, especially at the beginning of the war, the British were concerned about arms and ammunition that were stored at various places in the colonies, and they wanted to sort of take control of those so that they weren't available to the rebels, right? And so there's a certain amount of capturing already existing things, capturing vessels that are transporting it to the British. So the British are shipping supplies over, and the Americans are doing their very best to capture those supplies and use those things for their side of the war. And that happens. There's even a segment of time where there's a certain number of uniforms that are captured, and they're like, well, we can't use these red coats. What are we going to do? And they over dye them and turn them into brown coats because they didn't want to wear red coats, obviously. So they're capturing supplies. They're also endeavoring to figure out how to make their own supplies. And saltpeter is one of the difficult items to get a hold of. And they're, figuring out various ways to extract saltpeter from, different, manure, et cetera, like that. So they're working at those things. And they're also importing things from Spain and from France, supplies that they find hard to get. So how do we purchase muskets from France or from Spain, gunpowder, even uniform materials. So.
Cool. I want to do some donations real quick. Mm-hmm. I got quite a few.
Oh, great.
Not a lot of questions, so we can go through them pretty quick. So, speed and style. Tony, thanks for all your great videos. Thank you. Carly7567, 2 donations. Thank you very much. No question. XY. Hope you and the team have a great weekend. Love your channel as always. Thank you. CJB, thank you for the great content. Keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hocticus History Center. Thank you. Have you ever tried cedar or other evergreen-based teas? Nice guy. Thank you. Max are cool. Thank you.
Max, yeah.
When an average small farmer did field work, turning over soil especially, did they depend on animals or did they depend on their own family labor more? That's a good question.
Yeah.
And Will, I'm just going to straight up ask this question because it kind of gets joked around.
Do it.
And we're just gonna tackle it. Have you ever come across references to marijuana / general drug use outside of tobacco? I think we can tackle it. I think we can do it. And then Keltoid 5, thank you. Watching an old Q&A. This is from April 26, 2016.
Yeah.
Someone offered congrats on 75,000 subscribers. What do you think the turning point was for the channel? Orange Fool Daily Mail article. I would say fried chicken for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, those are all I got right now. Thanks everyone.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone who helps support us in that way. Cedar tea. I have not tried cedar tea, and I would be interested both in trying it, of course, because I enjoy all sorts of teas, and there's a bunch of medical simples, items like that are mentioned, and it's always fun to try to find. It's like, okay, we're experimenting with that today. Were they using that in the 18th century? What did they say about these different things in the 18th century, both as a food or as a medicine? It's really, really funny to see the ebb and flow of different let's say plants or animals, or plants is what I'm thinking of, especially in things like tea, as they come and go in medicine, and how, first it's, oh, this is working, and then by the 18th century, oh, that doesn't work, and then today, in today's medicine, oh, we found some compound that's related to, and it works for, and you're thinking, what? They were doing that in the 15th century. So cedar tea would be a great thing to research. But I don't have any answer beside that. Turning the soil. They're using horses. They're using oxen with plows to turn the soil. There are also issues with, especially when you first come to an area, say like here in Indiana, most of Indiana in the late 18th century, early 19th century, all the way through the 19th century, Indiana is just a big swamp. And to farm a place like this with a bunch of trees and swampy ground, it isn't easy. When you first get there, you do have to cut down trees, you have to burn trees, you have these giant stumps. And to do farming, you really almost have to farm by hand. And so they did do some of that sort of hand turning of the soil, making mounds and planting corn in it, in and around tree stumps, waiting for them to rot enough so that they could tear them out of the ground, and then they could plow in a normal fashion with horses or oxen. Marijuana. I was talking about the medicine part of cedar tea. I just haven't had enough interest to dig into the marijuana thing or the hemp thing enough. I mean, obviously they were using hemp for garments, for rope mainly. Whether how they're experimenting with that as a medicinal thing, I haven't done the research, so sorry about that. I'll have to dig in a little bit and at least get some ideas. Generally, though, as a recreational concept here. Most people have access to alcohol. That's what they're using in the 18th century. And I don't think they're really dipping into what the drug culture that we might have today with all the various things that are available to us that are fairly inexpensive. But in the time period, they would have been probably kind of rare, and alcohol is socially acceptable and what's available and inexpensive. So that's probably what you're going to see most likely. I'll do some research, see what I can find. Turning point for the channel. Yeah, I think Aaron's right. I mean, I think the feel for us here is that the first big move was fried chicken. And fried chicken was funny because we shot that in a series. I mean, that same day, didn't we shoot three or four videos?
2 or 3,
right?
Yeah.
We shot 2 or 3 videos that day. Same location, same thing. We just
shot it efficiently. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It's like not an assembly line, but it wasn't like we were trying something special.
No, we were not trying something special. I think that happens with a lot of, whether it's a music group and an album they do. It's like, well, it's essentially the same as the last one, but it was really good. It went big. We did do the intro a little differently than we had ever done before, and I don't know whether the intro was the thing. It was Aaron's idea, I think, wasn't it? And
I'll take credit for it.
Aaron, it was all.
So
Aaron.
I was thinking about this while you were reading those. I think there were 2 turning points. The first one was, hey, let's do cooking videos.
Yeah, well.
Now that was, for us, a turning point.
Yes.
As far as popularity.
Right.
When we did fried chicken, that mud oven video, the earthen oven, I think it had over 1 million views. That was kind of like our staple video.
Yes.
But it wasn't like we were getting tons of views every day and it was consistent. But then fried chicken, I think we gained, I don't know how many subscribers.
Right,
I mean, it was,
right.
it
And
was
whoever that wonderful person is who put it on Reddit and
yes,
made it blow up. Thank you, whoever you are.
Yeah, I don't want to say you saved our lives. But.
No. But certainly the channel always, it kind of goes through these little jumps, and it seems like every 2 or 3 months there's one video that boom kind of takes hold and moves forward, and
it lifts the whole channel up, even the back catalog.
Exactly. Like right now, the Hessians video is really popular.
It came up in my personal feed
the
other day randomly.
That's crazy. So YouTube and what they decide, because it's not they, it's it.
Yeah, it's not a person
whatever this
behind a curtain
thing
controlling things. The algorithm just is.
Whatever this weird AI monster thing is, it decided that Hessians was the thing to give people. Maybe they'd be interested in that. So anyway.
Do we want to keep doing donations? I got a few more.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Thanks, everyone. This is great. I want to get this name right. Nasia. Mr. Townsend, glad I had the chance to catch you live. Love the channel. Thank you.
Yeah.
George Vieira, what are some things an 18th century gent or lady might do to try and stay cool on a hot summer's night? Yeah. Michelle McAdams, thank you. Our family loves watching, especially our kids. They are fascinated with how things were cooked and done then. Thank you. GKR Jala, thank you. Townsends is not only informative and wholesome, but the only channel to address this subject on the net that I know. Thanks. They're probably talking about the weed one.
Oh, okay. Marijuana.
And then David Dinelli. Thank you. How common was it for people to stay at strangers' homes while traveling? Thank Josh for all his help at the shop today. Keep up the great work. Oh, yeah, I met you today.
Ta-da!
I knew that name sounded familiar. I was like, is that dude in chat? It was great meeting you. Okay, you got all those?
Oh yes. Oh
okay,
yes.
Let's do it.
If you get Josh to do the store tour for you, you're in for something special. Staying cool. Good question, and I don't have any good answers for you. I was thinking about this recently with Paris this last, like 10 days, a week ago or so. It was super duper. I mean, just boiling hot for Paris. It was hot just for anybody, but super hot for Paris. And how much warmer North America is, just kind of, oh, it's summer, it's 95 degrees, we're used to that here in Indiana, at least. And that's not typical from where a lot of the folks in the 18th century in North America were from, if they had emigrated anytime, within their lifetime. So you come from England, you come to America, and this is blasted hot, and then it gets really, really cold in the winter. We live here all the time, so we're used to the up and down that we have. Hey, it's 5 below. Hey, it's 95 degrees, and that doesn't happen in Europe. And how they dealt with that in the 18th century, because they were still working with 18th century fashions, and 18th century fashions were based around Paris and London, and they wore those sorts of things. And then, in North America, it's like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would I wear all this wool in the summertime? I wear a wig and a hat in 95-degree weather? Are you crazy? So really good question, and exactly how they dealt with that, that's a deep subject, and would be one that would be really interesting to dig deeper into. Somebody mentioned the family in that section, and I think we didn't build the channel for kids, but we built the channel that as much as we possibly can to be accessible to anyone. And when we did that, we also made it accessible to people that weren't necessarily from North America, or that English was their first language. So, that I think it's great that a lot of really young people can enjoy the channel. It's still good for, older people or people from around the world. Again, not originally our purpose and our design, but I'm so glad that it works out for a lot of the audience. So thank you. And the traveling and staying in people's homes, we've covered this a couple times, actually in the last couple of weeks. I think even last week. And there's some just really, really great examples of how it was much more typical. Well, number one, you didn't have a choice. You're traveling in North America in the 18th century, and the likelihood of you finding a motel is zero, right? There is nothing quite like that. They had the ordinary, or the taverns that you might spend the night at. But really, you know what those are? They're houses where people typically stay the night, right? So they're really not anything more than a bigger house than normal, and they take travelers in. But even in standard cases where your house isn't a tavern, you might be called upon to take in a traveler and have them stay at your house, because there is no place else. They come up to your door at 10 o'clock at night, the sun's gone down, and help. We didn't make it to the next town, and we need someplace to stay. You just couldn't keep traveling, and you might sleep under the stars, or if there's a house, you might ask them to take you in. So it was much more common, and you do find references to that just all over in diaries and in memoirs. Joseph Plum Martin, in his Revolutionary War soldier memoir, he talks about just staying in people's houses. The Woodmason journal in 1767 or so, he's traveling in the backcountry of South Carolina, and he's just staying in people's houses if he can find them, and they certainly don't have any problem putting him up. The Morley account or memoir that's happening in the 1720s or 30s, and he's traveling all over the place in North America, and he says, I didn't pay for a meal for a couple of months. He just bummed around and stayed in people's houses, and they let him, even though he was just basically an indentured servant. He wasn't a very well-to-do person. He probably wasn't dressed well. Maybe he had a really good language, a really good patter, so he could talk himself into any situation. I think that was pretty likely, but he certainly didn't have any problem staying in people's houses. So I think it was a much more typical thing than it is today. Whew, glad that wasn't lightning round. While we are here, I got a couple of questions or a couple of comments that I thought were great in Wednesday's video that had to do with that was the Mike Miller interview. The beautiful, I mean, really, we call him a gunsmith, but gun artist, right? He is just the work is beautiful. There's a piece over here. I would show it to you, but this is YouTube. Anyway, a couple of great comments. One of them is, which one? Let me find them. Oh, here it is. It's printed tiny. I need to have my magnifying glass out. I've gotten a lot more appreciation out of our modern comforts. Screws, tools of predetermined standards, readily available and cheap. Yet I still complain when I can't find the exact and correct cheese head screw. I'm not going to stop complaining, but I will appreciate them more when I do have them. And if you watched that video and you saw it, the clip came up more than once. It was 2 different clips showing how to make a wood screw. So, you start off with a little square block of metal and you cut it this way and you cut it that way and you file it down and you file it down and you turn it and turn it and turn it and you turn it into a wood screw. It would have been a great question to ask Mike on a product like that. How long does it take to make a wood screw? Can you imagine how long it takes? Because we talked about, making wood screws and how it's like, you'd make it and it's like, it goes in this hole, not that one. This one, you turn it and that's the spot for it. Making a screw by hand is just amazing. And the fact that they did that over and over again, this gun has, 2 different wood screws here, and actually a lot of it is pinned together, so it doesn't take screws. But the fact that all these wood screws have to be made by hand, and today we can go to the store and buy a box of them that would have taken 3 weeks to make, and we can buy it for what we might work for 20 minutes, to in our job. So incredible. Thank you for that comment, and it is something that we just forget about all the time. Another comment was, what, you didn't forge the entire gun here? The idea that even in the Frontier situation, there were things that were appropriate to do, that made sense to do. Yeah, I might make a screw, but I'm not going to make the barrel because that's cheaper for me to purchase being made overseas or made someplace, and bring it here. There's always a certain portion of that. Most people aren't, even a gunsmith, even if he's going to make his own barrel, is he going to make his own iron? Is he going to make his own brass? He's going to go out and, mine stuff? No, he's going to get material from other places. So there's always that certain amount of, am I going to, how much of a gun made out of scratch am I going to do? Am I going to buy the lock or am I going to make the lock? And I think the point there was they had the capabilities of doing everything. And they have done everything at that site. Maybe not all on one particular gun, but they have done all of the, yes, let's forge a barrel from, stock iron. Let's cast the brass pieces, even though most of the time they would have gotten that or they would have gotten it. So it's a great point, great comment.
Yeah, the wood screw, or the part in that video when he talks about how each screw individually, it's like that has to go in there. That just blew my mind.
Yeah.
Because now, buy a whole box of screws and you're good.
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
All the same, made by the thousands.
Did you want to do any more kind of housekeeping stuff? It's probably a little over halfway through the stream.
Yes, I did have a few Patreon names I wanted to talk about. Patreon is one of the ways that people support us. Some people support us through Super Chat. Some people purchase merch on our website. And one of the other ways is people give a small amount of money each month that goes through the Patreon website, And we've got about 500 folks or so that support us that way, small amounts of money. Dylan Hain is a new supporter, Bojo Pigeon, and Justin Wheeler. Super special thanks to Justin. Yeah, thank you, all you folks that support us with Patreon. It's a great way. We're working on some other ways for that to work, but we're not ready with that yet. And so Patreon is still the way to go.
I got a question real quick. Somebody's asked this a few times. I want to make sure I get it. Let me find it. Did they have a curriculum in the 17th/18th century? Can you talk about, is it equestrians or horseback riding in the 17th, 18th century? Is it equestrian? Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
I'd love to see the differences.
Yeah, I think you've talked about that in the past. There's some references, and there's a little bit of information in Diderot's encyclopedia about equestrian things, especially having to do with military, I think. But it's been a while since I've paid attention to that. JH would be the person to ask about that. If I can get a hold of JH, I'll ask him about that particular topic. Not one of my specialities. So if I don't know how much a horse costs, I certainly don't know what the differences are between their, kind of equestrian thing. I'll bet it's a lot more like English than it is Western. But again, I don't have any great information on that, unfortunately. Was there a second question there?
Curriculum.
Oh, curriculum. There you go. Curriculum. And so they're talking about schooling, right? And what the typical schooling was for children. And I think it really depends on the level of society you're talking about. But if you wanted your kids to study up and really get one of those good jobs, you would have them. They would be studying Latin. It's like, if you're going to be doing anything in any of those higher things, you're going to be studying Latin. And I wish I had a lot more. Okay, I wish I had any Latin in my education. There's a lot to talk about in the education realm, and I think we miss out a lot with today's education. And boy, I really want to speak to that, but I'm not going to. I'm just not. I'd love to go.
Let's do something else.
On a big rant on that, but I'm not going to. They're going to be studying classics. They're going to be studying classic literature, and I mean, hey, let's talk about Plato. And they're going to be studying Latin and other languages, because that is education is about learning how to learn, not about learning specific things. And that's what we kind of do today, because we're not doing education, we're actually doing training. So we train people today. Oh, we're training them to read a language, reading English, or we're training them to do a job, but we're not educating them. Yeah. Okay, next. Quick.
Did you get it out?
Quick. Let's.
I got some more donations.
Move on.
I got donations.
Save me.
I'm gonna. This is Nasia again. I hope I'm saying your name right. We appreciate the donations. I love the Dutch oven video. The whole technique of cooking a complete meal. Baking was amazing. Really something to think about instead of having a traditional propane stove during camping use today. Oh yeah, and I think it tastes better in the Dutch oven too. Remember was it the roast beef we did?
Yeah.
That was top 10.
Yeah.
Mr. A, thank you. Awesome channel. Thanks for the insight into everyday people. It's inspirational. Any kitchen garden episodes to come? I'm making a 18th century one in the UK and would like to know how essential they were for everyday people in America. That's awesome. Recon Phil. Can you talk about the bed gown, the colors available, and when a person would wear it? Also talk about the leather apron, wallet, and journal. Thank you. Jim Lindley. How much of the move west was from anti-slavery? And this, oh man, AI Kill the Reese. Thank you.
You're like putting Aaron through the ringer.
Hey, a lot of donations. We're super grateful. Such great work. I've shared this channel with so many of my friends. Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah.
Another one from Jim Lindley. Lick Creek settlement was led by my ancestors. John, if you ever played D&D, you should. That would make a sweet auxiliary channel. That would be cool. Taking a trip to Indiana soon. Hope to see you guys. Thank you. And then Rewild Outdoors. Thank you. The Earthen Oven is the episodes that really drew me in. I have watched a ton of Townsends since. Now I catch my 12-year-old daughter watching Townsends on Saturday morning. That's pretty awesome. There you go. If we can beat cartoons.
Oh, man. If we can beat cartoons. Woo.
At least today's cartoons.
Yeah. Well, maybe not nearly so difficult. It's like a good Bugs Bunny cartoon. I don't know if I could outdo that.
Can't top that.
Yeah. Kitchen
there's a
gardens.
lot there. Thanks, everyone.
Kitchen gardens. There are some good books, period books on kitchen gardens, and that's where I would go. And especially, I mean, you're in the UK, and a lot of that, there are a few kitchen garden ones that are specifically for North America, but the vast majority of those things are for Great Britain and would be like right on there. That research should be just super easy to do. I don't have any episodes upcoming that I've planned on that. It could be that we will touch bases with some future historic site and connect with them. It's not one of the projects that I've the problem with the kitchen garden is it really is one of those things you've got to be in it, all the time. It can't be one of those, okay, I'm going to burst. Here's what we're going to do 3 days I'm going to spend researching and doing this kitchen garden. I can't do that, right? It takes a lot more time in little intersperses. So I don't have that up my sleeve right now. Some historic sites, they specialize in that, and they're when I go to those places, we'll talk to them about that. Somebody asked about the bed gown, the kind of colors, and the bed gown specifically. I think a lot of that is available in the block print fabrics, and we get some block prints were just one of the fancy learning about textiles in the 18th century, 17th century, 18th century, moving on to the 19th century. Fascinating topic to study. A lot of this 17th century stuff is hand embroidered, and they were still hand embroidering fabric with these beautiful, intricate designs in the 18th century. That kind of disappears when you get to the 19th century as day-to-day clothing, but in the 18th century, there's just fabulous, beautiful pieces that were done. They were printing fabrics to emulate that, and sometimes weaving those things to emulate those beautiful hand-embroidered pieces. And the block prints are meant to kind of do that to a certain extent. We have some printed in an 18th century fashion block prints that are available for that. There's a special blog called Townsend, not Townsends, but townsendfabrics.com. You can see a bunch of the different fabrics that we use for bed gowns. The leather products, well, Brandon would be the guy to ask those because he makes them. Cool pieces. If you're on our mailing list that gets the kind of specials and new products notifications for our website, there was I think Ryan sent out an email today featuring some of those new leather products that Brandon makes. If you're interested in getting onto that mailing list, I think if you click on our Townsends.us website, it's right up there in the top, I guess for you, left-hand corner. Anti-slavery and moving west to get away from that. I don't know. I think there certainly might be a certain portion of that. There are some really interesting books to read to get a feel for what people were thinking about slavery in the 18th century and their reaction to it. As, is this is like, is this humanitarian? How are we supposed to deal with this? A great painful topic to dig into and understand how certain people were, no, this is commerce. This is what we have to do to compete. And then other people saying, no, this doesn't make any sense at all. Why is this happening in this particular society when here we have all this freedom and it's different from all the past mores of, Europe? Why can't we break away? Why is this particular thing happening here? Great study and great to understand if we really look at it and we can divorce ourselves from some of the very, very polar thoughts of today and instead look at what's happening with different people and what they're thinking about this in the 18th century with fresh eyes. There were certainly people, some of the I think it's de Warville, which we sell his journal, and there's the one we don't sell, which has to do with the farmer one, Crevecoeur. He uses a pen name, and so I can't remember the pen name. I think they both mention the idea of what's going on, how the different enslaved people are being treated. Just a fascinating topic to see how it's not a monolithic thought within what's going on with the people in North America in that time period. It was certainly, it's like, that's not the right way to do it. We can't do that. This isn't going to work for us, whatever. There's a lot of thought going on within all of society in North America about that. So it's just one of those just amazing topics that needs to be understood better. Oh, D&D. That was the last. That was the last one. Woo, that was deep. And
that was a great answer.
I do not know. I've never done anything quite like that. And D&D is a little after my time. So what can I say?
I've played D&D. I'll teach you how.
There we go.
It's pretty great.
We could talk to that one guy from the train.
Oh, yeah.
I think we need to have him make the cabin, the little cabin scene for us, so that we can. Anyway,
we'll talk later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Okay. Well, we're running close to the end, but I do have a couple more donations if you want to do. This has been awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Kevin Morales, I don't know. I'm tired. Love your videos. So calming, and you clearly enjoy life. I think that's my problem. That John's very calming.
Yeah.
Makes me tired.
Some people talk about how they listen to the videos to go to sleep at night, and it's like
that to me is the best compliment.
Okay.
A relaxing channel.
Yeah.
Life's crazy.
Yeah.
And Daniel Tosi, are there any resources for what curious natives interacted with your culture? There is a lot about adversarial encounters, but that can't be, or that must not be all. Yeah, that's a great question.
There are some really, really interesting interactions that you can research that are not adversarial interactions between Europeans or people of European descent coming and interacting with the Native Americans here in North America at the time. And so the reactions run the entire gamut, right? To he tried to kill me, to he's my best friend. And so there is a lot of good information. It's just when there isn't conflict, it's not a story, and so people don't want to talk about it, right? Mm-hmm. So we always the stories that we read all have to do with, oh, there's this thing, and then there's all this conflict, and then the happy ending. And if it's not a story with this conflict in it, hey, I made this friend one time. It's not much of a story, right?
Oh, wow.
So
how exciting.
Yeah, not very exciting, but it's certainly happening. There are some there's some journals, the 1760 journal to Jonathan Carver. He's traveling in sort of Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois, and he's interacting with lots of Native Americans, and he isn't really having any adversarial situation. There was sometimes when he was in between two groups of Native Americans that wanted to fight, but they didn't have any problem with him. So yeah, there's some good content there. There's some interesting things to read about. Let me see if I can remember his name. Heckwelder, and there's a whole group of Moravian missionaries working with Native Americans in the Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana time period. One of the books is called Wilderness Christians. I don't know. There's a bunch of, and that's hard to find. It's out of print. All these things are out of print. Some really good works talking about people interacting with Native Americans in the time period and it not being adversarial.
Oh. Keltoid 5, another great, super interesting show. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you. Wait.
Yeah. I have there's just a lot. And we might need to wrap it up.
We just can't keep going on and on. I mean, it's just Friday.
It's getting hot in here.
It is getting hot in here. It is getting hot in here.
But to everyone, sorry, this was a doing chat and monitoring.
Yeah,
and
it's
I hope
he's doing double duty. I'm about to pay him double for today.
Ooh, yeah, I like that. But I hope everyone got their questions in. Sorry if I didn't get to them all. We had a lot of donations, a lot of stuff to cover, and there's some great stuff on the horizon. So yeah, thank you everyone.
So are you gonna not give me any more questions?
Let's do this one real quick. If you want to
give me one to go out on, because you didn't even give me a lightning round, man.
Oh, I can't do that. I'm not as good as Kyle. Hang on one second. Okay. Okay. Have you discontinued your line of knives, specifically the Long Hunter Rifleman's plug, bayonet, and belt dagger?
Yeah. So what we wanted to do with the knife line in our catalog on our website was to work more toward knives that are made here in the United States. And instead, all those knives that were mentioned were imported knives. And it's harder to control both the quality and the design of knives made overseas. And we like to work with U.S. knife makers because they've got a little better idea about exactly what we're looking for a knife that's more typical of an 18th century knife. We might not always hit the mark, but we're working also within a price range too. So it's a lot easier to kind of hit toward period knives. Some of those designs and the ideas were good, but to achieve that knife in a more period style would be pretty expensive. So that's where we've kind of gone with our knife line currently. And a lot of we did the math the other day, and about 96% of the products that we sell in our catalog are made in the United States. So it's pretty crazy. We work with a lot of amazing craftsmen that are right here in the United States, as well as the people here in this building or that come in and work with us. So I am just so tremendously excited to work with the people that we work with, people like Brandon, that make things right here for us, that make them as close as you can get to an 18th century piece. Thank you, Aaron, for your hard work on the console and in the question seat and doing all that work. Could you serve me drinks too? I mean, come on. You should
guys don't even understand.
Yeah.
This was
he's just working so hard. The sweat is pouring off of him.
I will say, I don't know how streamers go for 10, 12 hours. I don't know how they do it.
I don't know.
Pretty amazing.
But we're still thinking about the subscribe-a-thon, where we just stay live until we get to a million.
For the million?
Yes, for a million subscribers.
That would be pretty fun to do. I just hope it doesn't happen at like 2 a.m. while we're sleeping. All right.
So the time has come. We're going to have to close the tavern for the afternoon. You can stay, but I've got to go home. thank you guys so much for your amazing support for everything we do. You support us with Super Chat. You support us with sharing our videos to other people. That is the way this channel grows. Even that we were talking about, fried chicken. It's like it was somebody sharing that on Reddit that made the thing happen. The video had to be good, but we can put out the best video in the world, but if the right person doesn't see it and talk about it, it doesn't go anywhere. So you guys make this channel happen. Thank you so much for all your amazing support. Thanks for watching today.